This episode of Dear Culture Podcast is brought to you by the all-new Honda HR-V. Every creator is driven by a strong sense of curiosity, and the 2023 HR-V is ready for any path that the power of determination can lead to. With sleek exterior styling and a spacious interior, this SUV is a statement piece, made to keep up with the pace of your dynamic lifestyle. The all-new Honda HR-V. Learn more at thebestlookingrvever.com. This song was so black. When I remember seeing the video, I looked down and I had a dashiki on out of nowhere. And I was like, yo, any song that can force me into a dashiki out of nowhere, that's a super black song. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Dear Culture, the podcast for, by, and about Black culture. June is Black Music Month. We've been having conversations all month about music. Some of this content is going to be controversial. Some of it's going to be interesting and intriguing. Today's is no different. Today is the Juneteenth episode. Juneteenth is upon us. And I decided the best way to honor Juneteenth is talk about some of the blackest songs that we have at our disposal. And to do so, I brought in two of my homies from the 80s Babies podcast, Outlaw and Yinka Diz. What's up, folks? How are y'all doing?
Life good, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate you bringing us and inviting us on, man.
Man, listen, when I thought about people to talk music songs with, the first thought I had was to holler at y'all. I've had the pleasure of being on y'all podcast a million times, talking about any and everything from protest music to our favorite albums, arguing about everything in between. And some of my hot takes, like Cameron should be one of the greatest of all time. I know that's one of Yinka's favorite of my takes.
For sure.
I want to first off issue you both an apology. So what we're going to do today is each of us is going to bring to the table five songs that we deem some of the blackest songs we could think of. And when I had this idea, it seemed brilliant. I was like, yo, I'm going to holler at the homies. We're going to show up. Everybody's going to have like one of the blackest songs, and we'll have a list, and people will just drop these songs. And I was like, I'm amazing. This is how I feel about me. Like, this is for the culture. I'm an amazing, brilliant person. And you know what I realized? This is a terrible idea. Horrible idea. Especially for people like us who are music heads, right? Who are gonna so for one, I want to apologize, but two, how hard was this for you all to come up with five songs that, and by the way, we're gonna get into this too, there's no rubric for. I basically said blackest songs. How difficult was this for you?
So I think it came down to first what your criteria was, but in terms of like what was allowed, what wasn't allowed. But I think for me, the biggest challenge I had was just figuring out what my criteria was going to be once I knew the general outline. And then once I had that, my songs actually kind of came together relatively easily. Yinka, what about you?
Hardest thing I've ever had to do, and I graduated from engineering school. So
real talk. Real talk. UVA
counts
school.
for anything.
Okay, and I appreciate. So what I have to say is that I appreciate the effort, right? Like, And this. So part of the reason why I wanted you all to be on is because you all have your podcast, 80s Babies, right? It's a podcast about hip hop and music and pop culture, and one of the things I enjoy the most is how into the weeds we tend to get when we're talking about these things. Like, everybody brings, like, you all bring such different skill sets to the table, but like no stone is unturned. The indulgences are all present. And I'm like, this is exactly, I know when I reach out to y'all will indulge this. And I texted both of y'all. I was like, yo, I apologize. This was ridiculous. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate y'all for being willing to go down this road with me.
Hey,
it's love, man. And I almost feel like you could have like given us all an assignment, like, you know, Yinka, you take Caribbean music, and Outlaw, you take African music or jazz, or I mean, there's just so many directions you can go in with this. So it should be an interesting conversation.
Well, that actually brings up a very good point. What did you use to come up with your own list? Like, because when I tell you what mine is, you're going to be like, this dude is ridiculous. But Yinka, what did you use to come up with like your rubric? What was your metric for blackest songs? Your list.
So I struggled with this, right? And I even like tried to phone a friend, right? Because I came up with my list and then I hit this wall where I was like, wait, what is black? Right? And by what is black, I mean, right? Like
yes, I want to ask that question too.
I'm half Black American and half African, right? But in my understanding of what Black is, right, the term Black is kind of a part of Black American culture, right? And like once like it became a term from Black American culture, then we all kind of adopted it. We as Africans were like, yo, we're Black people. You know, Cuban people was like, yo, we Black. Like everybody's Black. It's an identity now, right? So right. Does this assignment mean that I need to see what is Black from a Black American identity perspective, or a post Black American? Now we as a universal Black collective, what does Black mean to us, right? And I struggled with just even that, like the concept.
Nelson George would appreciate how much thought you just put into that. Like but that probably made it. I understand now why you said this is one of the hardest things you've had to do.
For sure.
Look, I had
Outlaw.
the same question. Because Panama, you and I have actually had conversations about like what is Black, right? Because you and I are both mixed brothers, but I happen to be very passable. And we've had that conversation sometimes about like, in certain contexts, I'm not always Black. Like, what does that mean? And we don't need to get into the weeds on that. But the point is that I feel what Yinka is saying. How are we defining Black? I ended up just saying, you know what? I have a general idea, like what it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with that. But for me, I ended up just making this very personal to what my perspective on what Black is. And I'd actually like to issue my own apology for all of the people watching this, because I know that the three of us are going to miss some very, very specific categories, right? Yeah. And I'll talk about that when I get to my list about categories, genres of Black music that I just did not include. And I'll say why, but I just want to apologize to folks out there that when we don't have your song, I get it.
Bro, it's 5 songs. And another thing that I love about this, right, is like some of this is like spades, right? Like some of this is like I know Panama, right? I know Outlaw, like I know what's in their hand, right? So how do I move around their hand so that like we have like an engaging piece of conversation here? Because if we all say Before I Let Go, right, then it's like, okay, all right, cool, we agree,
it popped up,
but that's not interesting, right? So it's how do I move around you guys' identities as a friend of yours?
Okay.
And it's interesting you say that, and I actually want your take on this. But before I do that, I do want to point out, so once this is all done, we are going to put all these songs in like a Spotify playlist or playlist of some sort, so that people can have a list. And I'll probably start building on that. Like over time, start adding just songs that I think like belong in this conversation.
Would love like to help with that, bro. Love it.
That.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to need all the help. And so my own rubric, let me tell you how difficult this was for me too. So I started out with the existential question, like, what is Black? Like, what constitutes a Black song? Because for instance, I'm a huge fan of like Fela Kuti, right? Like Blackest songs you could possibly get. They're political. They got all this other stuff. But I was like, is that where I want to go with it? Because then it's just a straight list like that. So I'm with you on the like diasporic nature of what constitutes Black and what constitutes Black music. This could be anything. And I'm like, we only got 5 songs. And I'm trying to have fun with this at the same time. So I gotta pull it back in. So then I was like, I am trying to have fun with this. That is my goal, is to be entertained by this at the same time. Like, I know y'all indulge, y'all get into these things. And I'm like, so somebody's gonna have to pull it back. Somebody's going to have to be the one that throws in a song that everybody's going to want to throw a tomato at me. Before this even started, I sent Yinka and Outlaw like like the meme of Alonzo Mourning, the famous one where he's just sitting there like he's mad at first, and he has that moment of realization, like, well, I guess so. And I was like, this is going to be my list for you guys in some places, and that's what I hope to bring.
Yeah, that's what's up.
You mentioned something, Yinka, that I want to point out. So I also made sure early on that we were going to take the obvious songs off the board. So here's my list of quick and dirty obvious songs, and I'm going to be curious what you guys have as obvious songs. Okay. So for one, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Off the list automatically, probably the quintessential Black song at this point.
Black national
They're playing
anthem.
it in NFL games for Blackness purposes. It's out, right? Before I Let Go, both the Beyonce and the Frankie Beverly and Mays version. Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic. It's out of there.
That would have definitely made my list too.
Yeah, listen, it started my list, and then I was like, that's too obvious. It's too easy. Right. Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday. out of there.
Okay.
Immediately out of there. No. Gotta go. So those are 4 immediate like Mount Rushmore black songs that I could think of. What other songs would you immediately strike off a list as obvious? Like, do you have any, like Outlaw, do you have any obvious black songs that I don't have here?
I mean, if we're going to say Before I Let Go, we also have to say Maybe Never Too Much by Luther Vandross. And Candy.
It's like candy. I can feel it when you walk. Even when you talk, it takes over me.
Cameo Candy. I was going to say the same thing.
That's the other, right, because we all do the electric slide to that song. There's a whole electric slide song, but if Candy comes on, everybody busts an electric slide. I do think the best man put it on blast as the song to do that. Yes.
So then is In a Sentimental Mood by Duke Ellington and John Coltrane, is that also off the table because of Love Jones?
I don't think enough people. I don't think enough people saw Love Jones to take that off the table.
It didn't make my list, but I'm just curious.
So so does that mean then, since we did this for Cameo and Candy and all these, does that mean that all the black people dance songs are off, like Cha Cha Slide and Percolator and whatever else?
Those songs are never gonna make my list to begin with, because I gotta be honest, I hate all of them joints. Like I genuinely can't stand the Cupid Shuffle. If that joint comes on at a wedding, I go stand with my arms folded in protest.
To the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. Now kick, now kick. Now walk it by yourself. Now walk it by yourself.
Yinka, you're not playing that at my wedding, dog.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you said. I'm glad you told me, because the thing about DJing weddings, and I don't want to take us on the tangent, but like the most important thing is to get people up. And those songs are sure shots. Like, Cha Cha Slide in them joints will get everybody up. Then you go into what you want to actually play. But anyway.
We don't need to talk about that, but it's not a tangent. What you play at the black wedding matters. It's relevant to this conversation.
Absolutely.
It does.
International Players Anthem.
Hurry, go to the altar. I know you ain't a pimp, but pimp, remember what I taught you.
I'm not going to toss it in here, but there is one song that I decided to leave off my list. That is going to be a surprise to you all, that I also think is played at every black wedding, especially at this point, that would factor in here. Let me break that. So here's what I came up as my raison d'etre for what a black song is here.
Okay.
Songs that white people couldn't make. That is how I landed on a black song. Like,
all right.
songs that white people couldn't make. And I'm going to perhaps controversially throw like Hall & Oates in here, because I feel like they probably straddled that line of being able to do anything.
Yeah. They make black songs.
But yeah, so no Hall & Oates type song. I don't have anything in here. The Bee Gees, Casey and the Sunshine Band,
Carpenters,
Bobby Caldwell. You know what I mean? Like every year, I dropped like an article every year. Like, when did you find out Bobby Caldwell was white? Because I'm always amazed at how many people are just now learning that. Like 40 years after What You Won't Do for Love has dropped.
What you won't do to do for love. You tried everything.
Really? That was me. I was one of them. I was late to the game.
That's crazy.
Well, yeah, I am always amazed by that. It's always like a brand new realization. Well, I guess realizations are brand new for a ton of people, and I'm always surprised by that. But it's always entertaining. And
it's not honestly, like a Rick Astley thing where it's like, yo, this dude sounds like a brother.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
When I found out that was a 20-year-old British kid when he made that song, I'm like, yo, I think I wrote an article about that too, because I was so dumbfounded by it. So, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a real quick break here. And when we come back here on Dear Culture, we're going to get into each individual list of Blackest songs based on the metric we all decided upon, which, as you can see, goes in many different directions. And we're going to see who potentially has the blackest list here. Whether we can come to any agreement, probably not. But at the end of the day, we're all going to have fun. So stay tuned here on Dear Culture.
Hello. I'm world famous white peopleologist Michael Harriot and the host of the brand new podcast, TheGrio Daily, on TheGrio's Black Podcast Network. Are you Batman? I mean, I'm serious, right? Like, the only reason you would ask a black person about black on black crime is if you thought that like black people were superheroes and could just put on a cape and go around stopping crime. Join us every day as we get to the nitty-gritty of everything going on in the world. We'll be everywhere you find your podcast starting in June. And as always, tell your mom and them I said, hey.
All right, we are back here on the Dear Culture Podcast having this Juneteenth discussion about Blackest songs with my homies, the 80s babies, Outlaw and Yinka Diz. And listen, I'm excited to get into this because I'm very curious about what songs that you all came up with. We've been talking about this for weeks at this point. So, Yinka, you're first up to bat. Let's hear your list. Let's go.
All right. So I took the diasporic, kind of angle, like you said, right? I felt like I had to touch at least like most of the extremities of like what black is, right? So,
okay.
I'll kind of start from like the 4 and 5. When I put my list together, right? So I had to put Fela, Water No Get Enemy on there. That's Fela's our Bob Marley in Nigeria, and
right.
That's the like revolutionary battle cry song, but then at the same time it slaps and everybody knows it. You know what I'm saying?
It slaps hard.
So that was probably my number 5. My number 4, right? I realized when I put my list together, there were no black women on my list. I had all men on my list, and I was like, that's impossible, can't do it. So my number 4 is
patriarchy wins again.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So growing up, my mother lived in Bolivia for 5 years when she was a high schooler. So she's a fluent Spanish speaker. She teaches Spanish. She bumped a lot of Celia Cruz around the house, and there was one specific record, by Celia Cruz, La Negra Tiene Tumbao, which basically means like the black girl got swag. Like my mom loved that record. She just played around the crib. So
song too, yep.
So Celia Cruz had to make the list. So those are my 4 and 5. And so to get to my top 3, my number 1, I'll start from the top and go down, had to be the new black national anthem, which is Kendrick Lamar's "We Gonna Be All Right."
We gon' be all right. We gon' be all right. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? We gon' be all right. We gon' be all right.
Go ahead, Panama. I know you got thoughts.
I was wondering if this song was gonna make it. So I had it on my list and I struck it off just because I was like, I'm sure somebody else is gonna put this on their list. So,
Yo,
okay.
I was like, if Panama makes me go first, then it's gonna make my list, and if not, either Panama or Outlaw's gonna have this, and then I'm gonna have to put. I got a backup list in case y'all got a list. That's my list. So
I figured Yinka was gonna have this one, so I'm glad you have it.
It's a must.
Solid pick.
It's the new black national anthem. When the Ferguson moment happened, it just like sometimes timing is just perfect for a record. It's already an amazing record, but the timing of when it was released just happened at a moment where we needed it, and it became our song, and that's why I had to make the list.
So agreed. All right. I respect it. I respect that. You already strong in the game right here, bro. Like you strong in the game.
Right. So 2 more. The second one is the Kendrick Lamar's "We Gonna Be All Right" of the previous generation, which is Marvin Gaye, "What's Going On." That had to make the list too. So
struck off my list for that very same reason too. I was like, okay,
yeah. It's obvious, but it's necessary. And I think one of the things that was important to me, right, while I wanted to cover the whole diaspora, my joint also got a slap too. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't have a list where it's just a bunch of records that only I've ever heard of, and that joint don't slap. So all of these records so far slap in my personal opinion. And Marvin Gaye is no different. It's revolution, it's culture, and it slaps. So hey.
Okay.
Agreed. Also on one of the greatest albums of all time.
For sure.
Arguably the greatest album of all time, depending on, I mean, that's not a debate we can have right now, but arguably. I see Outlaw like, wait a minute, but arguably.
It's definitely one of the greatest albums of all time and one of the greatest artists of all time. So, hey.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, right, again, I said my list got to slap. And it got to slap like universally and regionally. And so, you know, I had a few other situations that I had to move down just off the list, which, like I said, I got a backup list. But since I went first, Outkast, Spodie, Odie, Dopalicious.
This is just my interpretation of the situation.
I thought about it. I really thought about it. I'm glad you put it on there.
It's like it has to be on the list. And it's wild because it's not, I don't, like, the Black experience is not just revolution. It's not just pain. It's not just overcoming something. It's also like we just have a good ass time, bro. Like that, like being Black is beautiful, and living as Black people is, and celebrating in and of itself is revolution. And so I just feel like Spodie, Odie, Dopalicious just like embodies like what Blackness is to me, and I ain't even from the South. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like it had to make the list. So that's my 5.
Bro, let me say that is one of the Blackest songs, and I'm glad you have it on here so I can cross it off mine so I can slide in one of these ridiculous ones. Because when it's got the horns, and you know Black people love us some horns.
Hell yeah.
It's got spoken word. It's got people saying Hollywood Cole for decades, even though it's Hollywood Court, which is the projects in Atlanta.
Absolutely.
It's got a dope bass line. Yeah. And can't nobody figure out if it's actually a sample or not.
Right.
Because I've been trying to find out if that's a sample forever.
That's a good point. I thought it was an interpolation.
Spodie, Odie, Dopalicious. Yeah, listen.
Bro, it's the Blackest song ever. It even got a fight, a party, a fight. I mean, it's literally like my childhood experience. I wasn't at that party, but I feel like I was there. You know what I'm saying?
All blends perfectly.
And one of the Blackest parts of it, a nod to Good Times with the damn James.
Right.
It's in there, right?
Yeah.
Like,
facts,
you know what?
Facts. That's my 5.
Okay.
I'm really glad. Look, Yinka knows how much I love that song, so I'm really glad that you included it on your list. I'm glad this guy has an inclusion on this 15 Blackest songs of all time.
Hey.
Yeah, that's a perfect song, bro. Like, it's part of my morning. I have like a morning get hype list of songs. That which includes like Beyonce's like Countdown and stuff like that, and I got all these songs. Spodie, Odie, it was the one when I'm ready to get going. I just turn it on so I can get that. Yep.
That's the amazing thing about it too. Sorry, before we cut from Spodie, Odie, Dopalicious and how amazing it is it's a hype song that's a chill song, right? Like the tempo and the swing is actually really slow, but at the same time, because of them horns, it's like it's hype. Like it could be a fight song too, you know? Love it.
All right. So wait, can you recap your list? Go back and give us the recap of what's on your list.
I've got Fela Kuti, Water No Get Enemy. Celia Cruz, La Negra Tiene Tumbao. Kendrick Lamar, All Right. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. And Outkast, Spodie, Odie, Dopalicious.
That's a solid list. You coming out the gate swinging. I respect it. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
You already made me. I got to cross off a couple songs on my own list so I can slide in some tomfoolery. So, all right. Outlaw. Are you ready? You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready. So to kind of piggyback on your criteria, one of the things I also wanted to make sure was that these were songs that white people weren't overly familiar with, right? So no, there is one exception to that, but I'll tell you why it makes a list. So just right off the bat, I think one of the predictable ones for me would be from one of my favorite albums, and Yinka already knows this, Panama knows this as well, is Mos Def Umi Says. Right,
absolutely.
You got Mos Def. Not only is he kind of like singing on it, he's also performing a lot of instrumentation.
Tomorrow may never appear. You better hold this very moment. It's very close to you right now. Very close to you right now. So close to you right now.
You talked before about like, you know, not everything about Blackness has to be about pain. And I think that while he's talking about the struggle, it doesn't necessarily come from like, we're victims or like you're to blame. It's just like, look, Black people, this is what we have to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's a beautiful song. Like, you know, I could have an entire album full of just like Mos Def Umi Says and I'd be good. You know what I mean? So for me, what Blackness feels like to me on one of the Blackest albums of all time, I have to go with Umi Says. Right?
Yo, that was on my backup list, and I knew Outlaw was gonna pick it, so I love it.
Yeah, I knew that was the one. Most was gonna be on here. Something from that album was gonna be here somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the next one we talked before. We said "Black and I'm Proud" by James Brown couldn't make the list. Right? That was too obvious.
Yes.
But I did have to have something from the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. Okay. And I went with something that was potentially ignorant, but also just great, and that is "The Big Payback."
The brother, get ready. That's the bank. Get ready, you mother. Oh, the big payback.
And I'm going with "The Big Payback" for the main reason is because this line right here.
I don't know karate, but I know Karaza. Yes, we do.
And if that is not black,
somebody.
If that's not black, then I don't know what else is.
Hey.
Right? That whole song is basically talking about like how he's got to get back at his haters, if you will. You know what I mean? If you have an IG account, then you have at least 10 black friends that have all the haters in the world. You don't know where these haters come from, but the haters are there and that energy is there, and Big Payback encapsulates all of that. Right. So there you go. James Brown, Big Payback.
All right.
So the next one, Yinka, I feel you about us needing to have some women on here. And so I've got none other than Erykah Badu's Blackest song ever, and that is Tyrone. You better call Tyrone.
Yeah. Call Tyrone. Call him. Hold on. But you can't use my home.
Is like that song does not work if it's a studio version. That song only works because it is a live recording.
The crowd
and if you go back and you listen to this song, it's essentially it's call and response. That's essentially not just a spoken word, but that's essentially a comedic performance in song form. So you had the stand-up comedy routine, you know what I mean, with her saying a joke and the audience is like laughing at it and they're all about it, right? And everybody knows it's like, well, you better call Tyrone. Like that's just become black vernacular. So Tyrone has got to make the list, period.
Okay.
And also, Tyrone wasn't the deadbeat dude. Can we just clarify that for our brothers and sisters that do not know? We made Tyrone the villain for so long, and he was not the villain. He was just a helpful friend. All right, back to it.
That song wasn't about me, and boy, that ain't my name.
Exactly. All right, so this next one is the deepest cut, and I doubt either of you all have heard this or any of our listeners have heard this, right? But I think that one of the things about what makes a black song, or what Panama talked about, is like a black person or a white person can't make this. We also have to give credit to like a lot of the genres that black people created that often don't get credit for, right? So for me, I got started DJing by DJing house music, specifically when I went to South Africa and I got into South African house, right? And a lot of African artists get a lot of credit on the international stage, especially from folks from the West. But I feel like we have to give a shout out to some folks from the South. And so I'm going to give a shout out to not the most popular artist in South Africa, but my favorite, which is Black Motion, my favorite house group. This song represents for me, when I put it on, I feel like I'm ready to go to war with my people for whatever, right? Like I just feel very, very black. I put it on when I go to the gym. It just gives me all the energy that I need. It's got everything about house music that I love. It's got like the township kind of sense to it. It's got kind of like this goth chant going on. The drums are crazy. The instrumentation is crazy. The way it builds is crazy. So if y'all get a chance to check it out, please, for me, that's just something with it. Whenever I hear this, that's like my black theme music. That's like, it's everything for me. So there's a very personal choice. It's a deep cut. People may not know it, but for me, that's my list. That's my list.
Never heard of it, but I will check it out.
Yeah, it's dope. The last one for me is I feel like we have to give a shout out to a genre of music that has not been taken over by white people. Right. And I'm from the DMV area. Right. I live in DC.
Go.
Okay.
And we had to have a go-go song. You cannot have a list about Blackest songs of all time without having a go-go song. And there are so many different go-go songs I could choose, right? I thought about going Sardines by Junkyard Band, but I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do something that white people always do to black music. They always appropriate our shit. So instead, I'm gonna go with the song that we appropriated their shit. I'm gonna take a song that white people made that had no business. A terrible song by an artist that no one cares about. This is a song that had no business being any good. Everybody knows this song, and that's why it's going on my blacklist. This song had no business being any good, and they said, you know what? I'm going to take this dirt song, and I'm going to make it just butter. This song is awesome.
Bravo.
Blackest,
Bravo.
That's got to get on my list.
Bravo.
So
I love the colonization and reverse cultural appropriation. I love it. That's a great pick.
Here's the thing too. White people don't even know that black people made their song great. They forgot all about the song. But that's our joint now. That's our joint.
That is our.
So,
that's a really good pick, man.
That's a good
pick. You know what? That's a good pick.
Yeah, I like that.
That one. I appreciate. You have no idea how much I appreciate that as a pick for this. Like that, yes.
And I like the explanation too.
Yes, I love it. I love the thought. I love the thought. So okay, I'm all in. So go back one more time. Can you run down your songs again?
Yeah. So we got Mos Def, Umi Says, James Brown, Big Payback, Erykah Badu, Tyrone, Black Motion, Moya Wa Twaola, and Pieces of Me.
I appreciate the DC shout out. DC,
course,
I love that. I love that.
Of course.
All right.
District.
There you go. Got the district on your back. All right. So now it is my turn to share my list. And like I said, my personal rubric was songs that white people couldn't make.
Okay.
So here are going to be the first two songs that I have that, they should probably be obvious. But I'm going to give you a slight reason for why I picked them too. The first one is going to be Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack's Be Real Black for Me.
Be real black for me. Be real black for me.
One, it's in the title. You're not asking a white person to be real black for you unless it's Rachel Dolezal, in which case it's probably still controversial, but she might try. But I love this song. Some of the most beautiful singing. There's a point. The first chorus, Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway's voices hit the most perfect crest of unison I've ever heard in my life. Scarface sampled the song from My Block. It's just it's a perfect song to me. I'm Donny Hathaway stan.
Yeah.
To know me is to know I love Donny Hathaway. So that man could literally do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. Every record he's ever made has been perfect. Next, I'm going to go Rick James and Smokey Robinson, Ebony Eyes.
Okay.
I love this song. I still remember the first time I heard, because Rick James hit that Ebony Eyes. And I laughed so hard, but I was like, man, Rick James really went for it on this one. I really appreciate it. But the video is so ridiculous. And I know this is not the video version, but oh my goodness. Have y'all seen the video for Ebony Eyes?
Nah, yo.
Yo, Rick James and Smokey Robinson get shipwrecked on an island, and they're trying to find, they're waiting for the loves of their lives to come save them. So they're walking along an island by themselves singing about ebony eyes, basically to each other. But it's really fascinating. If you've never watched this video, I can't recommend enough to go watch a video. It's that ridiculous and that good. But Ebony Eyes is just a perfect song. I love this song so much. Since I first heard it, it elevated up the list for me for favorite songs. So far we got Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack, Be Real Black for Me, Smokey and Rick James, or Rick James and Smokey, because it's our Rick James album, Ebony Eyes. Now we got to get to the fun stuff. Okay. All right. This is in no particular order, but we're going to do this anyway. Mm-hmm. Diggable Planets, Blackadalism, Ninth Wonder. So, everybody knows this song because of Butterfly, Doodlebug, the Ladybug Mecca. Her verse in that song where she says
68 inches above sea level, 93 million miles above these devils.
Wait, Outlaw, you don't remember this song?
I'm not even sure. I'd have to hear it, man.
Oh, you have heard this song. I guarantee it.
Any
Okay.
order.
It was on Rap City. Yeah, any order. Like, A alike, B alike.
B alike, A alike, C alike. Let's G alike, Jazzy Joy. Jazzy Joy.
This comes right off the heels of Diggable Planets making Refutation, A Time. I can't remember the name of it. It was a very pretentious title, but it has Rebirth the Slick on it.
Right.
Diggable Planets turned right back around and got so super black that this album is called Blowout Comb, right? The album itself is called Blowout Comb.
Yeah.
This song, part of the reason I picked the song is one, because the word devils gets mentioned several times in it. This song was so black. When I remember seeing the video, I looked down and I had a dashiki on out of nowhere. And I was like, yo, any song that can force me into a dashiki out of nowhere, that's a super black song. They had afros and afro picks. Like this, this dug so heavily into their like African diasporic bag that I was like, there's no way I can put a list on here. This is like one of the first songs I thought of when I did this list. All right, so that's the warm up one I gotta explain. But y'all gonna feel me on this next one. All right. Breathe in. You going as soon as I say the artist, you're gonna know exactly where I'm going with this. Juvenile. Back that ass up.
Girl, you look good, want to back that thing up. You's a big fine woman, want to back that thing up. Come and Big Daddy when you back that thing up. Girl, who is you playing with? Back that thing up.
Okay.
Listen, I was wondering if somebody was gonna put this on the list.
It's such a layup to me. For one, the reaction that black people have as soon as the intro strings come in, right? It literally, outside, I'm trying to figure out what other song moves people to the dance floor as quickly as this song. Maybe Candy?
Not even.
It's BBD Poison?
Maybe. That might be the closest.
Which was one of the songs I struck off my list.
Me too.
So Juvenile backed it as, for one, white people couldn't make this song, right? It wouldn't hit the same way. Like, this song is a staple black community song. You can play it anytime, anywhere. Everybody loves it. Everybody knows it. And people just respect and understand the point and the purpose of this super black song. Everybody understands the assignment when this song is on. So that's why I picked Juvenile's Back That Ass Up. Now, y'all ready?
All right, what you got?
You're going to know where this is going as soon as I get started. Ray J's One Wish. This song is black because it's so ridiculous. And it's the kind of song, if somebody were to say this stuff out loud, you'd be like, yo, this is so black. This is so ridiculous. For one, it's called One Wish. There are at least 14 wishes made in this song. At least 14 wishes made in this song. Ray J does a video dancing in the rain for no good reason, which is some very black stuff to do, adding atmosphere and ambiance where it is unnecessary. My point here is it's black in nature that Ray J, my main point is Ray J has a song called One Wish that has at least 14 wishes in it. all of them which are more like just asks, like, you know, could we just do this thing? Like, we could just kind of hang out. They're wishes. It doesn't make any sense. So I picked Ray J's One Wish just because of the sheer ridiculousness of it as a song, which I think is very black. And it's sung by a man named Willie Ray Norwood. Willie Ray is one of the blackest combinations of names in the history of blackness. So I went Donny Hathaway, Roberta Flack, Be Real Black for me. I think we can all agree on that one. Rick James and Smokey Robinson, Ebony Eyes. It's in the title. Diggable Planets, Blackism, Ninth Wonder. Also the place where Ninth Wonder, the producer, took his name from.
Makes sense.
Juvenile, Back That Ass Up. Because, I mean, it's the most Understand the Assignment song of all time. And controversially, Ray J's One Wish because of the sheer ridiculousness of it and because of the super black ask of it. But, you know, I hear you. So, yeah.
I like
that. That is our list.
I like the list. I like that you put a Ray J record on there because it wouldn't be a Panama list without a Ray J on there. And the funny thing about the record that you chose, your reasoning for choosing it is actually the reason why I almost put Lauryn Hill's Doo Wop on my list instead of Celia Cruz. Because I just feel like her just condescending to all of us black people was just so black. Like, it was just like, you girls out there, make sure you don't do this. And you guys, just to make sure you don't do that. And I'm like, yo, this is some really black stuff right here. So I feel you.
All right. So look, go ahead.
There's not going to be anything for Sam Cooke. Change gonna come. That's just too obvious.
It was on my list. That's probably one of the obvious picks too.
Yeah,
it was on my list, but I think it's more of an obvious pick. So I'm gonna have a list of all the obvious picks too. All right. So we're gonna take a real quick break here, and when we come back, we're gonna discuss who of the three of ours probably had the blackest list. Who won? I mean, it wasn't a competition necessarily, but who had the blackest list so far? I got my pick in my head already. It's not me. So we'll be right back after this break here on Dear Culture. All right, we're back here on Dear Culture, and we just had a discussion about the blackest songs. The three of us, myself, Yinka, and Outlaw, brought our list of 5 blackest songs, and it went places I didn't expect it to go, but it was all awesome. And I, of course, had to bring Ray J into the discussion because Ray J belongs in every discussion as far as I'm concerned. But we need to figure out, so of the songs we brought, of the list, who had the blackest list? I'm going to go first because I did not win. I did not have the blackest list. I know this because I included Ray J. And I gotta say, and I wrote these lists down because I wanted to make sure. This is hard because you know what? Like you both had, since it wasn't me, you both had songs that I genuinely put. I'm gonna go with Outlaw on this one. I'm gonna give it to you by hair because Spodioti, I'm the ATL. You know what I'm talking about? Shouty, you know what I'm talking about? Like, so wait, choice. So all right, so Outlaw, I'm giving it to you. Who had the blackest list to you?
I think
you can include yourself if you need to. By the way, that's okay. This is not.
Look, I do legitimately think that go-go is the blackest musical genre that there is, only because it's the only one that no other culture has co-opted it at all, right? Like you know, Afrobeat, all the modern Afrobeat bands, and I'm not talking about like the modern like Niger Afrobeats. I'm talking about all the ones like when Afrobeat resurfaced. All those bands, they all have like a lot of white members, right? Dancehall, soca, blues, jazz, like all these black art forms, house music, rock, hip hop, they've all been co-opted by white people. Go-go music has not been co-opted by anyone. Yeah. It's just a black art form. So that is a strong choice. But Yinka has Spodioti Dopalicious.
Yes, Spodioti
Yinka has Kendrick Lamar's We Gonna Be Alright. Marvin Gaye's What's Going On.
He does. It's a good list.
He's got a strong list.
Just because of I gave you the explanation.
I'll take it, but his list is very strong. Very strong list.
I gotta agree with both of y'all. Like I you know, in my vanity, I'll say that I like my list the best, but I think Outlaw has the best individual pick of anybody with the Ashley.
I was very confident with that.
That was solid.
It was one I didn't see coming at all either. So it was like I completely didn't see it coming at all. Sure. So when you said it, like the wind up was perfect. Like I'm feeling it. The more you talking, I'm like, oh, he's gonna do it.
Right. Man.
Well, because I was just gonna say the thing that's hard is that, like, look, I do think that go-go is a necessary inclusion, regardless, right? But it's like, which song do you pick, right? Do you pick something by Chuck Brown? Do you pick, you know,
my assumption was the butt was where we were gonna go.
Do you pick Junkyard Band Sardines? Like that's a very, very strong pick. But I was like, nah, I want to do what white people did to all of our music, but we gonna take their song that no one likes and we're gonna make it good. So that's why I had to do that one.
And real talk, at first I thought you were going with Hello. I thought you were gonna go the Hello route.
No.
And then it dawned on me, it was like, wait a minute, Pieces of Me. Pieces of Me. Exactly. And then when you kept going, I was like, here we go.
If you were outside when we was playing Pieces of Me, yo, I mean, you could just cut it and the whole crowd gonna sing it. Like they really did it exactly how Outlaw said. Like it's a song that nobody cares about. And, you know, they blackenized that joint. That's ours now. We got that.
It's funny, too, because go-go oftentimes gets gets criticism, and legit criticism, for covering songs and doing a very poor job. Yeah. And everybody who's a DC transplant, most of the times they come to the city and they're like, what is this? Like, what is this music, right? But the one song, well, there's two. Sexy Ladies, everybody likes Sexy Ladies, right? True. But the other song that they all get down to is Pieces of Me. So, I mean, you know, I own it, you know.
Great pick.
I own it.
All right, well, that was a great pick. Those are great choices. And like I said, you hit me in the heart with Spody. You got, like everybody, y'all's list was great. Y'all lists. I'm talking blackest songs. Now I'm getting AAV out here. Y'all lists were amazing. I love that stuff. I think it's really strong. It's actually stronger than I expected it to be. So that's saying something. It actually, like, the choices ended up being even better than I expected.
If your song is missing, we apologize, and we're gonna try to accommodate that hopefully in this little Spotify playlist that Panama's working on. So don't even trip. We got y'all.
Yeah, don't trip, homie. That was gonna be a game. I was gonna go the whole game route, but that's probably also, like you said, it's too deep cut. All right, so I want to thank y'all for putting these lists together, and I genuinely appreciate. I knew y'all would indulge this, and I just love it. So before we get out of here, there's one thing I like to do at the end of every podcast, and that's ask for the guests to give us a Black recommendation. A Black recommendation would be a recommendation of something by, for, and about Black culture, Black people, whatever. So I asked you all both to bring a Black recommendation to the table before we got here. So Outlaw, what is your Black recommendation?
My homegirl, she's an Igbo Nigerian, and she has 2 kids. And she put these books together with some friends of hers about how to teach, because she doesn't want her language lost. And so she put like learning materials together for African children, or for Black children, or for anyone who wants to learn these languages. And so there's learning materials for Igbo, Yoruba, Edo, Hausa, Swahili, Twi, and Amharic. And then not only that, but she also took some African folklore, some stories that she heard when she was a kid, some fables, and then turned those into books for children. So, but from an African, told from an African perspective, so that they can hear some of these fables, from passed on from their ancestors. And so you can go check out this website. It's www.ada-ari.com. ada-ari.com, ada-ari.com. Go check her out, support her stuff, Black owned business, and go get your learning on.
All right, dope. Appreciate that Black recommendation. Yinka, what you got?
Mine is a shameless plug, but I do make music. I released my album on vinyl at the end of last year. I'm pretty proud of it. It's a translucent blue vinyl. My album is available on vinyl, and 25% of the proceeds go to Victory Lap 5K, which is a 5K nonprofit that basically creates opportunities for STEM programs for high schoolers in North Carolina. So definitely check that out. We'll include
this is is it the Discovery?
Yeah, Discovery, exactly.
Discovery, thanks. Yeah.
Dope. All right, well, Yinka, Outlaw, tell people where they can listen to the 80s Babies, where they can find you guys at. Where can they keep up with the 80s Babies?
It's at the 80s Babies on all of our socials. We're trying to expand into doing the whole Instagram thing, TikTok thing. Our stuff's on YouTube now, and anywhere where you listen to podcasts, it should be available at the 80s Babies.
Yeah, 80ZBABIES.
There it is.
All right. Well, look, thanks everybody for checking us here at Dear Culture, this podcast. We had this was a great conversation. Perfect Juneteenth episode as part of our Black Music Month suite of podcast episodes talking music. Please email all questions, suggestions, compliments, whatever, to podcast@thegrio.com. And Dear Culture is an original production brought to you by the TheGrio Podcast Network. The show's produced by myself and Crystal Grant. Edited, produced by Richard White, and Regina Griffin is our managing editor of podcasts, who is also one of our guest producers here on this episode. So thanks for listening. Have a Black one. Next week on Dear Culture, the new book about the notorious B.I.G. It Was All a Dream, Biggie and the World That Made Him.
I feel like Biggie and Pac have kind of been subjected to just being like, oh, these two guys had a crazy beef and then lost their lives in a very tragic manner. Like, yes, those things absolutely happen and they absolutely have to be part of the story. But even before all that, man, there was an intense and beautiful friendship between those guys. Like, I want the love and the brotherhood between them to get just as much, acclaim and just as much coverage as everything that happened after Pac got shot at Quad Studios. I think that was important for me to showcase the origins of that friendship, just how deep it ran and just how loyal they were to each other.